Thank you so much. My name is Gary Keilson. I'm a neurologist at Reliant Medical Group in St. Vincent Hospital. And it's a real privilege to be here tonight with everybody and to be able to speak with Rachel. I've known Rachel for a long time. She embodies the mission of the American Heart and Stroke Association. She has a real inspiring story to tell us and a real important message. And I'm looking forward to being able to speak with her. So Rachel, why don't you first start by telling us a little bit about yourself? And maybe if you can share some of the memories you have of that first day when you presented with stroke-like symptoms.
I was 30 years old and I was teaching first grade, and I went to my doctor on May Street for a regular checkup on a thyroid condition. And I've had headaches that were absolutely bonkers and cracking my head open, but I really didn't think anything of it. And I got to her office and the nurse checked me in, and a couple of minutes later, it was 10:10 a.m. I slipped down the side of the wall. I lost a lot of functionality in the left side of my face. I 100% lost my swallow. And I just remember everything going numb. And I just remember them saying, "You're having a stroke," and that's what it was. And I could not believe I was 30 years old. You know, I'd seen my grandmother have a stroke. I loved the Golden Girls, but it was like not me to have a stroke.
As you said, you were so young, certainly you didn't fit the profile of what we consider the typical stroke patient who's older.
No.
Those first few days in the hospital, I'm sure you kept hearing the word stroke.
Yep.
What were your emotions? Did you have a hard time accepting it?
I couldn't accept it. It's so life altering, so mind blowing. You know, there's got the world in the palm of your hand, 30-year-old, you know, trucking along invincible, and then you're having a stroke, and it was just inconceivable at that age.
I'd like to talk a little bit more about your long road to recovery, but before we do that, maybe you can give us a little sense of what your life was like prior to that day you had your stroke. What were you doing? Tell us a little bit more about yourself.
So I had been teaching first grade for 7 years at that point, and right here in Worcester. And I had an apartment, and I lived by myself, and I had friends, and you know, I did things. I wouldn't say I was happy. I was pretty bent being 30 and not married, and not having all these great things happening in life. Stroke turned out to be that great thing. So it takes a long time to reconcile that. And I see that with survivors that I work with. And then I have the privilege to be an old timer. You know, you have to get angry.
Still young.
Your life, you can't do what you did. You aren't who you were. And that's okay. You can do anything. But your illusion of your life is shot.
So let's talk a little bit more about your road to recovery. I know it's been a long process. What were some of your biggest challenges and maybe some of the setbacks you experienced along the way, and how did you keep going?
My biggest concern for everyone at the hospital when I had my stroke was that I had absolutely zero swallow, nothing partial about it. There was nothing. And that was really hard because there was no guarantee that it would ever return. And the feeding tube was really hard to manage. You know, being hooked up to a machine and having it feed a bag of food into me. I mean, and the suction machine, managing my own spit. Yeah, I didn't want to go out in public. I finally wanted to show my students that I hadn't died, and I went there, but I could barely walk in the room because it was so embarrassing. I wouldn't suction in front of them, and so I think getting my swallow back and managing all that on my own was a lot, and I didn't do a very good job. I did the best I could. But I'm so grateful now people have more resources, help, support, so it's not so isolating.
Right. So healing from a stroke is a long process, and it usually is a team effort. You were and still are a strong, independent person, probably not used to asking for help. Can you tell us a little bit about Well, do things on your own. Can you tell us a little bit about team members that helped you along the way, different specialties?
Um, my immediate symptoms were so isolated, but the network of people, the nurses who every time they see you, the people that check you in. I remember when I got to have my first shower, and it was like 2.5 weeks after my stroke. And she took me in this big room and she sat down and she said, "I'm right here, you're okay." And we had to tape up my feeding tube. She just sat there. She was there. She said, "It's okay." And that's where I came to accept the help. It was the help of you people made me feel safe in my own body. And I had lost that. And you restored that. You were that safety when I couldn't be it. Now I can do that for other people. But for a long time, you made me believe that when I was near you, I was okay. Yeah.
So let's turn to your work as a volunteer.
Yes.
So what is it that made you want to volunteer to work for the American Heart and Stroke Association and to be such a strong advocate? And maybe also if you could tell us some of the things you've done as a volunteer, and maybe a little bit also what you've done in your school.
The American Heart and Stroke Association is absolutely credible at showing survivors how much they have to offer and giving them a voice. The first thing I started doing was I did the local heart walk here in Worcester, and I did that. I only did 1 mile. That was my first year, and that was incredible to be a part of Worcester in that way and help out. And I felt so good, and my kids loved it. Then I started doing the advocacy, going to Boston, to Beacon Hill to lobby for stroke-related bills. And that's an amazing experience to be able to sit down with your elected officials and help shape policy and to speak that voice. And we have great people here in Worcester. So that's been a lot of fun. And then I was doing that. So then they said, how about going to DC for the big federal advocacy? And I got to go do that. And, that was that. And each time you do that, you meet survivors. And I have friends who have aphasia and other stroke things. They can't speak, and I can. And it's a responsibility because we all feel the same. We are amazing, strong people. There's no one stronger than a heart and stroke survivor. And to help the American Heart and Stroke Association, when you guys have helped me so much, you've given me the confidence. I got married after my stroke. I didn't know this man before. I got married, and then I was able to teach full time again, and you said I could do that. And then Dr. Shukla said, I don't think you can have babies, but you can teach full time. And the next month, I was pregnant with my now 12-year-old son. He got to meet Teddy Bruschi in Boston at Stroke Lobby Day. So he thinks the stroke is a fun thing for him because he gets to meet Teddy Bruschi or throw out a pitch at the Bravehearts, That's how it is in our family. I've gotten to write articles on my own or contribute in Stroke Connection magazine. It is an amazing magazine. And I get to work on these ideas that I have about recovery, and I get to participate in podcasts. And I get to speak when we had conventions for caregivers and survivors and meet some amazing people right here. And that's, you do not survive a stroke to be miserable. So seriously,
Right.
you've had that. So the American Heart and Stroke Association has given me avenues to give people a little bit of what I have, to give a little bit of hope, to give back in what has given me a life beyond my wildest dreams. I am incredibly blessed, and I've got to share it. So that's just my mission in life.
That's great. Well, Rachel, I want to thank you so much for all you have done and all you keep doing. And I'd like to allow you to have the final word if you have anything else you'd like to offer for all of us.
It's a lifelong journey, stroke is, and I'm proud to be a stroke survivor. I count that number one. It's the thing that makes me strongest, and I'm proud. So I think that's what I want to pass along, that get to know the American Heart and Stroke Association, get to know a survivor, and neither one will ever disappoint you.